Record. Okay, so thank you to everybody that's joined. The purpose of the call is really, I think, as we said in the invite, the WHS rules of handicapping changed on the 1st of April. We are 2 weeks into this, and I think a lot of people have had like first-hand experience now of some of the changes. So what we wanted to do, or what I wanted to do, was just basically go through kind of the same material that we did last time. But I think when we do the demos, what you'll see is that some of the tools and some of the screens changed. Okay, so this time round, it's actually using the kind of post-April the 1st software, whereas the first time we did it was the old system. Okay. Right, so as we said last time, expectations for today's call. So really what happened on the 1st of April was that a whole series of changes were brought into place. One of the main ones was to do with calculation of course handicap and calculation of playing handicap, and that's really the focus of the call. To set an expectation, the graphic you see on the left is an infographic that came from the RNA USGA, which was a simplified explanation of basically how you calculate your new handicap. I think, what we've done is stress to everybody that, I'd recommend please don't even attempt to try and calculate the handicap anymore. Really, the purpose of this call and what we would say to people going forwards is use the tools to basically look up your handicap, okay? We're going to go through all the different ways of doing this, and you can see two good examples on the right. The top one is really one of the screens in IG, which is showing a screenshot. Now that screenshot I've just realized is pre-April the 1st, but it would show the same information. We'll go through this. And then the second thing we've done, which I think has been really popular, has been really well received, is this concept of label printing. So every time you enter a competition, you can basically print off a label, and you can see at the bottom an example I did earlier today, where the label shows my handicap index, my course handicap, and my playing handicap. Okay, so I'll take you through the different tools, but again, really what we want to do, and I keep stressing this, is do not try and understand this calculation process on the left. Really would encourage people just to look up the handicaps. Okay, why did WHS change, or what happened here? So I think WHS has been around for 4 years, and as part of that program, every 4 years it gets reviewed and improved. And I think England Golf took this opportunity to align the calculation of the course and playing handicaps with a system that was used across, probably the majority of countries in the world. So it's a slight anomaly in a way that you've got a WHS system which is positioned as standardized, but each golf union had the ability to make changes to it. And really this is bringing England Golf, which is our union, in line with what a lot of other countries did. The second thing was, in general, you also, you get a lot of learnings over those 4 years. And I think Kerry explained this really well, is like, if you think that now every single round played by every golfer is logged into a database, you have a huge amount of data there on how people have played and how those scores are impacting their handicaps. So I think in the spirit of trying to continually improve it and really trying to make sure that everybody has the most accurate handicap possible, England Golf or WHS made tweaks to the way some of the scores are calculated, and that particularly relates to things like weather conditions, so course corrections, what happens if you don't play a number of holes. So in most instances, you won't come across this, and again, it's not something that you need to understand. It's just changes which are geared towards making your handicap more accurate. Okay. And I think the point at the bottom is that a few people asked me this why are we doing this? Why are we, Bristol and Clifton, doing this? So I think it's quite important to stress that these changes are being driven by England Golf. Every club in the UK and Ireland has had to implement them. Okay, so we don't have a say in this. You know, we have to go ahead and implement it. We've been working quite closely with Intelligent Golf, which is the software vendor, as have quite a lot of clubs now. You know, trying to make sure that we get collectively the best experience for members. But again, we're dependent on a third-party software provider. So I'll answer questions as we go, but the only caveat would be a lot of this is kind of out of our control. Okay. What are the key changes? So I think, again, in summary, from April the 1st, a handicap index did not change overnight, and the way that it's calculated is exactly the same. So it's still the average of your best 8 scores out of 20. Okay, so there was really no change to the calculation, therefore no change to the handicap index. What did change was the way the course handicap was calculated, and basically the way the playing handicap was calculated. And I'll show you in a minute, these two are no longer linked, and that's the big behavioral change we need to try and drive through. But very much depending on the tees you played off of, you may have seen already your course handicap change, or you may have seen it stay stable. And what I mean by that is if you're playing off the white tees, typically a course handicap has gone up by 1 and 2 shots. If you're playing off the yellow tees, typically it's either stayed the same or gone down by 1 shot. And off the top of my head, if you're playing off the reds, I think it's gone up by 1 or 2. Okay. The reason why there's a range, so why didn't everybody go up by 2 shots, or why didn't everybody go down by 1 shot? It's to do with a change in the way rounding was done. Okay, and we'll touch on this later. But really, everybody's handicaps have been adjusted. That really makes quite a big difference, or it makes a significant improvement if you're playing competitions off of mixed tees. So if we play a competition where you can choose between white, yellow, and red, what you'll notice is that the score balancing has gone away. That's now built into the handicap calculation. So you no longer see this. If you're playing off the white tees, you get 2 extra shots. The key thing, and again, I think everybody will have seen these now because they're actually up at the club, is that the handicap boards that we used to are obsolete and they got removed. We just decided to replace them with a board which really pointed people in the direction of the tools that you can use. And again, we're going to go through these anyway. But the course handicap boards are basically obsolete. Okay. Now, the thing about calculating course and playing handicaps, I tried to put one slide together to kind of showcase this. And again, this slide was pre-April the 1st. So when we read today, that should say pre-April 1. Let me edit it just to make it clear. So pre-April the 1st, what would typically happen is you would look up your handicap, or you had a handicap index. You would go to the course board and you would look up your course handicap, and you would look at the tees you're playing off of, and then it would give you a mapping to your course handicap. So here, okay. You would then take your course handicap, and if you were playing in a competition, you would apply an allowance to it to basically get to your playing handicap. So I would look up my handicap index on the board. I'm playing off whites. It would tell me I get 18 shots, 18 shots, say. That would be my course handicap. I would then get a calculator out, and because I'm playing in a medal, I'd take 95% of the 18, and I can do that in my head. so I would get 17 shots. Okay. And I think the key thing is that was a two-step process. So you've got your course handicap, and then you use your course handicap to calculate your playing handicap. The big change from April the 1st is really that and this is what we have to re-educate people on, is that if you think of it as like a black box, you plug in your handicap index, and then using one of the tools, be it the touchscreen, the member app, or My EG, it either picks up the course rating, the slope, and the format of the competition you're playing in, or you key it in. But it basically gives you two numbers. It gives you a course handicap and it gives you a playing handicap. Okay, so that the tools do this for you. The really important thing is that the course handicap, or sorry, the playing handicap and the course handicap are now totally independent. So no longer can you say, I'll take my course handicap and multiply it by 95% to get my playing handicap, or take my course handicap and multiply it by 85% to get my playing handicap. That calculation will not necessarily work. It might work in some instances, but in other instances, it will give you a different answer. So again, the really important thing is, and this is the difficult thing about this, is it's like we're asking people to unlearn something, which is that historically, these two things were related. Now that that think of them as being independent. Okay. And again, I'll show you this as we go. So if I recap it, the handicap index was unchanged, continued to be calculated like it was before. Calculation of course and playing handicaps has changed. Course boards are now obsolete, were not replaced. You need to look up your course and playing handicaps, the touchscreens app and the My EG app, which is what we're going to do. And, you know, and we keep repeating this, but you can no longer calculate your playing handicap from your course handicap, unless you have a degree in maths. Right, how can you look up your course handicap? So this slide was used in a different training, but basically there's a number of ways of doing things at the golf club. So you have the IG member app, which you can see in the left, and you've got the touch screen. So both of those come from Intelligent Golf. You've obviously got the web portal. You've got some very friendly people in the pro shop, and we've got a My EG app. Okay. So we put together a mapping, which, so down the left-hand side, you can see the functions or kind of things that you would do with these apps. And then we basically said which one does which. So the first thing I would say is that really your go-to tool for anything competition is IG. So either the app, the touchscreen, or the web. Okay. If you want to do things with your handicap, so like general play rounds or seeing your scoring history, I would strongly recommend using the My EG app. It's much better at handicap stuff. That said, you can still use the touchscreen to do general play scores. Okay. So there's kind of a choice point there. The pro shop, I did put a column in for them. The pro shop will always be there to try and help you out. They do have some tools so that if you're completely stuck trying to figure out what your course handicap is, that they do have some lookup tables. But I think the pro shop have done a fantastic job over the last couple of weeks of really trying to help people learn and navigate some of these tools. So if you're having trouble with the touchscreen, you know, go to I'd recommend using the touchscreen in the pro shop, and there'll always be somebody there that can help you and walk you through the steps. Okay. If you're having trouble with the app, again, there's quite a few people who know it, and I'll try and make myself available more at the club so that we can take people through the various steps. Okay. Right. So what we're going to do, is there any questions? Sorry, let me pause. No. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take you through a series of demos, if this technology lets me. What we're going to do, first of all, is look at the touchscreen. Then we're going to look at using the IG member app. And then finally, we're going to look at the MyEG app. Okay. So what I need to do is switch to the touchscreen. And again, I'm having trouble with the sharing. So if I stop sharing, so if I share the screen again, and this time the touch screen, so hopefully you can see the leaderboard from the ladies comp today. Okay. Right. So this is the touch screen that we all know and love. The first thing I'm going to show you is this handicap check button. So this is actually really handy if you want to do a very quick lookup of a handicap. So if you click on the handicap check button, what it's going to do is basically say what course are you playing. So you can choose, Bristol and Clifton is like, I'm basically playing 18 holes, or I can choose I'm playing the front 9 or the back 9. Okay, so I'll choose 18 holes. The simplest demo here is that what format am I playing? So if I, to keep it easy, if I choose individual competition, okay, it brings up this calculator. Now, I do need to manually put in my handicap index because at this point, I haven't actually logged on to the touchscreen because it can also be used by visitors as well. So it doesn't know who I am. So I literally just tap in my handicap index. I tell it I'm playing off the white tees. I click on calculate, and it will tell me my handicap index, my course handicap, and my playing handicap. Okay. If I now go back, and again I have to type my handicap index again, but if I can now do it for a different tee, and so you see if I played off the yellows, handicap index obviously still 17.3, course handicap 19, playing handicap 18. Okay, so that way of doing it is nice and easy to look up an individual handicap. Where this tool kind of comes into its own is if you're playing, and I use the example of 4-ball, better ball match play. So if you've got 4 people and you're just playing a social Wednesday better ball match, this is a tool that you can basically use to look up the shots. So again, if I put in my handicap and say, well, I'm playing off the yellows, we've got a 13.3 handicapper playing off the yellows. We've got a 17.2 handicapper, and we'll put them, it's the lady, off the red. And we've got a 17.3 handicapper playing off the red. So I can put in the 4 handicap indexes. I basically specify what tees the people are playing it off of. And what it's going to do is basically tell me for each of those players what the handicap index was, what the course handicap was, and now basically how many shots each player will receive. So this is working out the shots against the player with the lowest handicap. Okay. So it's a very, it was brand new. It was a surprise when we saw this on the 1st of April, but it actually is really handy to help people calculate handicaps for social golf. Okay. Any questions? Right. So what I'm going to do now, that was social golf on the touchscreen. What I'm going to do now is just show you some examples of using the touchscreen now if you're in a competition. Okay, so if I log in as normal, what you can see here is I've got 4 training competitions set up. So we're going to use, first of all, individual competition in the touchscreen, this one here, okay? So I'm just simply going to enter the competition and check in. So this is exactly the same as the way I would have done it before. I've set my competition up with a 4p entry fee, which I'm going to pay. And I'll enter the 2s. And what you see straight away is now that I've actually checked into the competition, I have the ability to print a label. So again, if you've been at the club, hopefully I think a lot of people have seen these. Each of the touch screens now has a label printer attached to it. And if I click white label, it's going to print me a label with my course and playing handicap. If I'm playing off the white tees, if I click print yellow label, it's going to print that label as if I was playing off the yellow tees. So if I'm a lady, there would be a print red label button. Okay. And so this is really handy because basically you can now just enter the comp, print your own label and just stick it on the top of the scorecard. Okay. And then all the handicaps are on there for you. Couple of questions we've had regarding the labels is do you need to add the time? No. So basically everything that's required for the competition is on that label. You're not required to add on the time. You're not required to add on the marker, and you're not required to indicate what tees you were playing off. So you can literally print that label, stick it on the card, record the score, sign it. Obviously, the player signs it and the marker signs it. But that will be sufficient for the competition. Okay. Any questions or comments on the label printing? Okay. I'll chance the next demo. So it should work. I've got a second competition set up here, a team competition. So again, what I can do is enter and check in. So because it's a team competition, this is a pairs greensums. It's got me in and saying I need to add one more player to my team. So Kerry, I'm just going to borrow you. And Kerry is going to play with me. Shows me the rules. And so basically it's entered the 2 of us as a team. The way the touchscreen works is that each player would now be required to go in and pay their entry fee. And each player at this point would be able to print the label. I don't have the technology to show you this, but if I printed the label, what it's going to do is actually show me a label with both the names in the team. It's going to show me the individual handicap indexes and course handicaps, but it's going to show me one team handicap, which is what you would use. So this works also really, really nicely for team competitions, greensums and foursomes, to give you basically the team handicap. Okay. So that's, I think, the touchscreen demos. Does anybody have any questions on the touchscreen? If anybody's got a degree in psychology, we're trying to work out the way people are actually putting the labels on the cards. So most people stick them over the bit at the top of the card where you would put in the details. We've seen some people stick them on the back, on the rules, all over the place, basically. So sometimes it's hunt the label. Right, what I'm going to do now then is switch to a demo on the iPhone. So just bear with me while I do this. Sharing iPhone. This is the dangerous part of the call. Okay, so you can see that. Cool, so that's working. So what you see here is the home screen of the app. The first thing I would say is you do need to check that you have the latest version of the app. So the way you would do that is that if you look in the, unfortunately, I can't point on the screen, but if you look in the top and left, you see that there's just above handicap record, there's a cog or like a wheelie thing. If you click on that, that takes you into settings. Okay, scroll to the bottom and you'll see a version number. So you can see I'm using version 2.5.1. If you're using the app, it's really critical that you are running this latest version, because this includes a number of fixes that were rolled out over the weekend to some of the handicap calculations. So I believe that most people, this will update automatically from the App Store or from Google Store. But it's worth just to check that you have the right version number of the app. Otherwise, you might get some strange results. So on here, the first thing I'm going to do is to show you how you can look up handicaps again. So if I click on handicap record at the top of the screen, it basically shows me my handicap index, my CDH number, and details of the rounds I played historically. But if you look on the right-hand side, so you see at the top, it says handicap rounds and calculator. If I click on the calculator button there, it basically gives me my course handicap and playing handicap for each of the available options at B and C. So we've obviously got for men, white, yellow, blue, and then that's repeated for front 9, back 9. For the ladies, you would have red and green. Green is just blue, basically. So depending on gender, you'll see different things. So if you're just trying to quickly look up your course and playing handicap, you see straight away that the app is a better way of doing it, because it knows who you are. So on the touch screen, because we hadn't logged in, it didn't know who we were. But if you're doing this on the app, it already knows that it's me. So it basically just displays my handicap. Conveniently hidden off the bottom of the screen, if you scroll up, is the show calculator button. Okay, if you click on that, what it's going to do is basically take you out to the web page we were effectively just looking at on the touch screen. So we're pretty sure it's the same software. So again, you can just click on the course, and then again, I can choose 4-ball, better ball, match play. Okay, same caveat as before. It doesn't any longer know who I am because it's punched out to like a generic calculator, but it still works exactly the same way. What you can do is, you can do all of the stuff I showed you on the touch screen using the same calculator tool, and also you have a much quicker way of looking up your own course and playing handicap. Okay. Any questions? No questions. Okay. So that is, again, if you're looking up normally handicaps if you're playing social golf. If you're playing in a competition, and again, I'll walk you through this. So here are, if you haven't used the app before, there's a competitions tab here. If you click on competitions and go to upcoming, you can see all of the upcoming competitions. You can see that the two that I've just entered via the touchscreen. I've got a third one set up, which is an individual competition on the app. So to enter that one, I just click on it. It shows me the details of the competition. So it's an individual Stableford. You can see this in the notes. To enter it again, you have to just scroll up, and they've conveniently put the button at the bottom. So we are asking them to please put these buttons at the top of the screen, so that people don't have to scroll to it, but the button's at the bottom. So on the app, I would just click on enter competition. Because it's a roll up, there are no tee times. Enter the competition. basically it just enters me straight away, and it's taken the required payment. Okay. Sorry, it's entered me in the competition. That's step one. Then I do step two, which is I check into the competition. Okay. At this point, it's taken my entry fee, and it's now giving me the option to enter the twos club. Okay, so I can choose to enter the twos club or not. I will. But then basically, at this point, and I get all the pop-up messages, I've entered the competition, and I've checked into the competition and paid the fee. Okay. What I believe, and we are just checking a couple of things on this, but what we believe, or sorry, what I know is that having entered the competition here, I can now go to the touchscreen and print the label. So a lot of people enter a competition and check into a competition away from the course. Maybe do it before you come up to Bristol and Clifton, just to be sure that you're in and entered. But what you can still do is you can still go to the touchscreen and print the label. In most cases, we are aware that some people had an issue with this on Saturday, but what we think the issue is that, and it happened to me as well, is that I checked in for the competition on Saturday really early, like about 4 o'clock in the morning, because I was checking to see whether it was actually working. Because basically 4 hours elapsed between me checking in and then getting to the course and trying printing the label, it wouldn't let me print it. Okay, it didn't give me the option. A few other people had the same issue, and what we think it is that think that there's a 2-hour kind of timer, because normally when you check in, it doesn't let you enter your score for 2 hours, because it says, well, you've checked in, but you've still got to go and play your round. So there's a 2-hour window before it will let you enter a score or finalize the score. We think that the software is using that same logic to basically determine when you can print a label. So our working theory at the moment is if you check in on the phone, you will have the option to print the label for up to 2 hours on the touchscreen. Okay.
Nigel, I assume, sorry, I assume that you can't check in on the day before a competition.
No. So it's a good question. Yeah, you can only check in on the day of a competition. The reason for that is that check-in is very much used for handicapping purposes. So it's a requirement that every player registers an intent to do a round for their handicap on the day that they're playing the round. So if people are entering a monthly medal, so say we'll be booking soon for the May medal, you in that instance you book 7 days in advance. So really, when you book, what you're doing is reserving yourself a place in the competition. You're putting your name on the start sheet, but we do need everybody. But you haven't actually done anything on the day to say you're doing that handicap round. So that's why we require everybody to basically check into competitions, because it's essentially registering that intent to do the handicapping round. Okay. So the neat trick you can do on the app is, having actually entered and checked in, you now see that there's this begin scoring button. So if you click begin scoring, it actually takes you through to a screen which shows your playing handicap. Okay, so this is correct, because the earlier screenshot I showed you was the previous version. So because this is a competition where I can play off either the whites or the yellows, it gives me a choice. So if I play off the whites, again, it's going to give me a course handicap of 21 and a playing handicap of 20. If I play off the yellows, it's going to give me a course handicap of 19 and a playing handicap of 18. So it's quite neat that okay, it's better to print the label, because then you don't have to write it on the card. But if for whatever reason you just want to look up your handicap, again, the way you do that is just click on the begin scoring. It displays your handicap. You can hit confirm and start scoring and score on the app. I'm personally not a fan of it. It's okay for individual comps, but it's really quite tricky if you're trying to do bettable through that route. I personally would check in on the phone. I used to look up my handicap on the phone using this method, but I probably do that on the touchscreen now with the label, and I would typically put my score in on the touchscreen. Just think it's easier, but it's everybody's personal preference.
Nigel, is there a reason, or is this just because of your training thing that we're not got the blue tees out?
Blue?
Yeah.
Just that the training competitions we use here
You just haven't
were
set them up. That's fine, but
were
normally there would be a blue on there as well, wouldn't there? In a mixed tee competition.
It's a good question. I know last year we did run these kind of rainbow competitions where you could play off of whites, yellows, reds, blues, and greens, green being the ladies' version of the blue. I'm thinking off the top of my head that we've just defaulted to just white, yellow, and red for the summer, but I'd need to double check that.
And obviously next year we're probably going to reconfigure the course and have a
Correct.
few tees there, but I would say just generally would be good when we've got, let's say, a midweek Stableford or something like that to give everybody as many options as possible.
Yeah. My philosophy when we were doing a lot of this strategy work on the competitions was exactly as you've just said it. I want to give everybody the opportunity to play off the tee that suits them the best. I think one of the problems last year is if I ran that rainbow competition, white, yellow, red, blue, unfortunately, what it meant was that you got into this situation where people are playing off the whites got 4 extra shots, people playing off the yellows got 2 extra shots, people playing off the reds got 3 extra shots, and it's like it really complicated. But I think the really good thing about this change is that again, that +4, +3, +2, depending on the competition, that's all gone away because that is now built into the course handicap, you see. So the really good thing about what this change does is it makes it much simpler for us to run these multiple tee competitions. It's much simpler for the person playing because you simply have a course handicap and you don't add shots to that. And so I'll look at the blues thing again, but I think you're right that when we re-rate the tees and we've got, a man would have the option to play off white, yellow, red, blue, black.
No. Yeah, I mean, next year I would assume that the men would have the opportunity to play off 5 different tees, and the women would have the opportunity to play off 3 different tees. And therefore, this would be quite a long. This screenshot you've got here would be, it would say 65, 63, 60, 60, whatever we're going to call the new tees whenever we put them in.
Yeah.
Okay,
and again, I think this is a real positive because I'm completely with you. We do want people. Why would I force somebody to play off the whites? Even playing off the yellows on Saturday would have been tough. So I probably would have quite considered playing off the blues given the conditions. But we want to give people choice. But at the same time, I think last year it became quite confusing sometimes. All right. Any other questions on that? Whilst I quickly look at what other demos I had here. Oh yeah. So what we've looked at is on the app how to look up your course handicap. We've just looked up how to look up your playing handicap if you're playing in a competition. Other good things with the app is that if you're playing in a match, and this is quite a good way of plugging that we're in the final of the Claret Jug. So what you can see here is if you're playing in a match, and a match is the bad word. If you're playing in a knockout competition, so you see in orange, I've got the Claret Jug, the Cartwright Cup, the New Zealand, the Peter Dodd. if you click on the match, it basically tells you who you're playing and what the shot allowance is. So let me choose an easier one, which is the Cartwright. So you see here, I'm playing Chris Granger, and you can see the handicap indexes, shows you the calculation for the course handicap, playing handicap, and then basically the shot allowance. So in this instance, I get 5 shots. Okay. If I go to the...
Sorry, Nigel, why does it say there's an entry fee at the very bottom on that?
Here? Sorry, on the notes?
Yeah.
That's just basically when I entered the Cartwright Cup, that was the original definition description of the Cartwright Cup. So it's an individual knockout played off the white tees of 18 holes. Then it listed the entry requirements. Then it listed the fee. It's just pulling through the overview of the competition. Okay. That's all.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a fair question. So that one's handy. If I go back to my Claret Jug example, this is, what's the Claret Jug? Mixed foursomes. So virtually impossible for anybody to calculate mixed foursomes handicaps now. But essentially what the app is saying is that you know, the model for foursomes is 50% of the combined. The interesting thing about foursomes is that you know, you're playing alternate drives. So really you're either playing off the yellows or the reds. So what happens now is that correctly we identify what is the scoring tee. So in this instance, we've told the system we're playing foursomes, it's mixed, but basically we're going to use the men's par and we're going to use the men's stroke index. And based on that, it's done the playing handicap calculation that you can see, and then basically shown the difference between the two playing handicaps. Okay. There is still a debate going on as to whether it should have halved those playing handicaps, but
no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Yeah, it shouldn't.
It's just it's 50% of the difference.
Yeah.
But I would suggest, sorry to be a pain on this.
No, that's okay.
Scoring tee should be the red.
Oh, okay.
It's always the advice strongly in favour of it being the shorter course. Okay. It's not the end of the world for this, but I mean you can do either, but the advice is always the shorter course.
Okay, we can look.
Yeah, it's fine. Look, this one, yeah.
Now, the eagle-eyed people may say, well, the difference between 58 and 55 is not 2. But I'm going to say this is a one of the rounding challenges, because 55 can represent anything from 54.6 to 55.4.
Sorry, Nigel. Sorry to be a pain on this one, but the difference is 3. Half of that is 1.5. And
oh, okay. That way around.
Both in foursomes and in singles match play, you use rounded course handicaps. Okay. So yeah, this is 3.5. Sorry, 3 divided by 2
is 1.5, and then rounded up to 2.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
So it is correct.
Yeah.
So I think Kerry, for those that don't know Kerry is invaluable because he's the Gloucester County handicap advisor, who knows this topic better than all. I think what you can see from this is that these calculations are really, really quite hard, and even for us at the moment, it's still difficult to not difficult, but it's still slightly confusing to understand when things are rounded or not. That's why I would just stress to people, look up the score. It just says that the difference is 2, and I'm going to, that 2 will be correct. Okay, so just go with the answer that it gives. Okay. That's matches. I think that was it for the app. Kerry, were there any more? I think that's it. Okay. So
Hello.
Yep.
Can I just go back to the blue tees thing? Being one of the ancients and playing off blues most of the time, I mean, what label do you print out then? Do you print out a yellow label? But
no, if I configured it with a blue tee, it would give me the option to print a blue label.
Ah, right.
So I could be brave and try and change that. I can do it at the end.
No, don't worry, don't worry.
Essentially, if my tees for a competition are white, yellow, red, blue, or sorry, white, yellow, blue for men,
right.
when I do that check-in, it's basically going to give me three options. Do you want a white label, a yellow label, or a blue label? So you click on blue, it will basically calculate your course handicap and playing handicap for the blue tee.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
All I would say is you're very right, Nigel, is that in the fact that the bottom line is the computer is normally always right on these things.
Yep.
So trying to work them out for yourself is an absolute nightmare. So I wouldn't particularly suggest that anybody tries to do it. But the computer is a licensed vendor to England Golf, and it doesn't make mistakes, really. It does for Nigel, but it doesn't for the average, for most players playing their games. So whatever it says is going to be right.
I'll caveat what Kerry's saying when we get to the known issues, but Kerry's correct that now some patches have come out. In 99.9% of cases, or what we know is at the moment that the web calculator is. I'm not aware of any issue on the web, so that's the touch screen or the calculator calculating the wrong handicap. There is a niche error that we're aware of on the app, which means that in a very, very rare situation, it's getting the rounding wrong, but it's literally you've got to be like playing off 14.4 or something and have a certain course rating and have a certain handicap allowance, and it's somehow getting the rounding wrong. And that's the reason why we've turned off at the moment the ability for people to enter scores via the app, because it was on kind of the guidance of IG that they've been quite transparent, and they said, we know that there's a problem. The chances are none of your members will see that problem, but at the same time, we have no way of telling whether we've had that problem, if that makes sense. So we have temporarily decided to just turn off scoring until that's fully fixed. But I'll come to that on the known issues in a minute. Okay, my EG. Okay, my EG. So, as I said at the beginning, and we are going to, I caveat this with, we are going to try and do some more training, like kind of going back a step on what is the IG app? What can you do with the IG app? What is the My EG app? What can you do with the My EG app? How do you install it? That kind of stuff. But really, what I would say is that ideally everybody, if you're comfortable using a phone, I would say have the IG app and the My EG app. That said, if you're not comfortable using the phone or you don't want to use the phone, you can do everything through the touchscreen. Okay, and it's quite important to stress this because we've been pushing quite hard trying to move people to the apps, and I did get feedback from somebody who said, but I'm not comfortable with the app, or I'm having difficulty with the app. Can I still use the touchscreen as I've done in the past? And the answer is absolutely. Okay, so you can do everything you've done before through the touchscreen. You can enter comps, you can check into comps, you can do general play rounds. What we're just doing here is really focusing on the apps for those people that are comfortable to use them. So the My EG app does not do competitions, I think is probably the start point. What it does is just basically your handicap. So what you can see on the screen now is my playing handicap record. What it's doing is kind of showing it graphically, and you can see the scores further down. Now I think, most of my scores are at Bristol and Clifton, but there's one near the bottom where we played at Enmore Park. So I can click on the Enmore Park and see the details. This is the one area where the MyEG app is really good, which is if it's going to show you all the rounds you've played, either at your home club, Bristol and Clifton, or pretty much any other club you've played at. Certainly in the UK, and I think Kerry, Wales, Ireland, Scotland,
and New Zealand.
Andy.
Bizarrely, but Spain is coming on later this year. We need
Spain and Portugal for all the people that send me the cards from the holidays. But basically, if you're traveling around the country and you're playing you're lucky enough to go and play lots of different courses, and you want to do general play cards, the MyEG app is absolutely the way to go, because you can do it at each course. The IG app is really only looking at Bristol and Clifton. Okay. So on here, I'm trying to remember how it works, is that if you want to get to the handicap calculator on here, you see at the bottom right, there's a more button with 3 dots below the 96. So if I click on that, that kind of brings up a settings screen. But if you look in the 3rd box down, you've got WHS course handicap calculator. Click on that one. And what it's then showing me is all the courses close to where I am. So again, the difference is that the IG app, if you remember, only gave you the option for Bristol and Clifton. Whereas this is basically giving me every course in the area. So my closest course is Mendip Spring. I could use that as an example, actually. So if I pick Mendip Spring, it's then calculated what my course handicap would be at Mendip Spring. And apparently they have green, white, blue, yellow, and red tees now. Okay. So it's really good if you're playing at different courses in the area, because that's really the best way of now looking up your course handicap. We've used this quite a bit with like team matches when you're playing away. If the away team hasn't calculated labels for you, you suddenly go, how do I know what my course handicap is? This would be the way for you to look it up if they're not doing it for you. Okay. I don't know what test club Porter said test club is, mind you, but that's new, Kerry. So that's the handicap calculator. What you see here, though, is that all this can do is look up your course handicap. It can't look. It doesn't look up playing handicaps. It doesn't have the option to do the team handicaps. Okay, so that's where you'd have to go back to the IG one. Okay, now the other thing then, and it's kind of related to this, is that what we would recommend to people, again, if you're happy using the app, MyEG app is really good for doing general play cards. So I'll just take you through this. So if you look at the bottom, you can see Dashboard Friends scorecards. If I click on scorecard, basically I create a scorecard, and that's what I would. The taxonomy I would use would be you're registering an intent that you're going to play around today. So I would create the scorecard. It wants me to choose the course. So this time I will choose Bristol and Clifton. It wants me to choose the marker. So I'm still suffering from the weekend, so I'm going to play off blue. Okay, so I've told it I want to play Bristol and Clifton off the blue tees. I click on Create Scorecard. This basically tells it I'm creating the intent, but it won't let me because I'm too far away. So this is the geo-fencing issue. Not an issue, this is the feature that in order to create the scorecard, I actually have to be physically at the club to do it. What was interesting is last time I did this demo, and I'll just try that again, because I selected the course, Bristol and Clifton, select the marker. Oh yeah, sorry, I missed a step. When I brought up the select a marker and I choose blue, what I meant to say was, of course, this has also then displayed me what my course handicap is going to be again. So this way round, I can register the card. It shows me what my course handicap is, so I know that when I'm playing the card, and then I can go ahead and then basically register the intent. Okay, so I can do everything in one series of steps. Okay. Any questions? Right. Okay, so that's the end of the demos. If we now switch back to the challenge of Zoom, just to switch back to PowerPoint. Nope, that's the one that doesn't work. I don't know why it's done that. This one then. Okay, so if I just recap, and again, this is the slides we used before, so you can tell that we were trying to get across one very clear message, which is your handicap index did not change. Course handicap has likely to have changed. Playing handicap is now calculated using a different model. You know, the one thing is you cannot calculate your playing handicap from your course handicap, so therefore look it up. Okay. Issues. So I just want to be transparent on this, because I think, you know, we're on quite a lot of discussion groups, forums and things. I think this rollout for us has actually gone really well. I mean, ironically, we got lucky that we weren't running competitions on the first couple of days, and then bizarrely the weather played in our favor a bit because the initial competitions got cancelled. In the interest of transparency, there have been quite a lot of issues with the software. Those issues have now been fixed. So IG were very, very quick to fix issues that arose on the touch screen and the web-based tools. They rolled out a new version of the app over the weekend, and that's why I said it's quite important that everybody upgrades to that. If anybody works in IT, one of the problems is that it's very difficult to push out quick fixes for an app because you've got to go through an Apple Store approval process. So they were very much on the ball with some of the issues that came up earlier on in the week, but those have largely been resolved. I'll talk you through these issues that we're aware about, but I would really caveat that to say that these really are only impacting a very, very small number of people at the moment. So, you know, there is a handful of instances probably across all clubs and all members where it's got an incorrect playing handicap due to a rounding issue. I believe that that's now been resolved again, but it's waiting for rollout. For that reason, what you'll see at the moment is that we're just asking people or directing people to the touch screen and still asking people to put their scores in on the touch screen and disabling entry on the app. Very few people do that anyway, but as soon as we are happy that the app is working, we will kind of take that restriction off. And I think we're pretty close to that. If anybody's entered the match play, I did show you the handicaps. We are aware of an issue where I use the example, if you're playing, for instance, in the Captain's Prize. Captain's Prize is a knockout competition which is aimed at the lower handicap golfers. It has the concept of a maximum playing handicap. So we would basically say the maximum playing handicap for a man, I think, is 12, and the maximum playing handicap for a woman is 16. We are aware, and what that means is that if I'm playing off a handicap of 16, I can enter it, and I can play, but basically I'll be expected to play off of 12. Okay, so we are aware that it's not implementing that playing handicap threshold properly, and in some cases it's basically assigning the men's playing handicap to the woman. So we are aware of that, and we will proactively reach out to the people in those knockout competitions where that's the case, and then just advise them what their correct playing handicaps would be. So we know of the people that are impacted by that. Again, we've had some reports, general play scores. One of the things that was changed was the way the system calculates kind of missing holes. So if you play 19 holes, if you play 9 holes, it scales it up to 18. And if you play, say the valley is closed, you play 14, it scales it up to 18. Initially, there were some issues with this whereby it wasn't correctly calculating the expected scores. Again, a few people had situations where they put in a general play card and it turned up as 0. I believe those, I checked this before the call, and it looks like they have now all been retrospectively corrected. So
yeah, and EG fixed it over the weekend.
They did do that, okay, because everyone I knew about has miraculously been corrected, so that's goodness.
Yeah.
For anybody who played in Eclectics last week, we're now aware of an issue that the Eclectic results have not shown. Again, this will be to do with the software rollout, so I've raised that one back to IG. Mentioned this earlier, label printing's been a huge success. We've had a lot of positive feedback about the labels. I said we are aware, and I'm not sure whether it's a bug or a feature. I think it's a feature, but basically you can't print a label if you checked in more than 2 hours before you got to the touchscreen. Okay, and then for anybody that joined earlier, Kerry and I were just talking. I think the biggest challenge that everybody's got at the moment is 4-ball scores. The context of this is that one of the changes that was brought in was basically that if you're playing a 4-ball or better ball competition, the scores could count to your handicap record. So if in a better ball pair, Kerry, if you score more than 42 points.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, if the pair scores more than 42 points or is 6 under par net, 6 under net par or better, and if one of the players is on the card at least 9 times, and that player has got 36 points, then his or her score would be acceptable for handicapping. So it's a lot of caveats, a lot of things for it to hoops to jump through. But you would guess that in a big 4-ball better balls competition, maybe about 10% of the scores will be acceptable for handicapping.
Yeah.
So and there's a bizarre way of scaling up, which people don't really need to know, but it does mean that if you have an absolutely great round and somebody's contributed very well to the team, it will figure on your handicap record. And we've only had 1 competition run in Gloucestershire so far, and nobody at the club understood it at all. And we took ages today actually trying to work out how the hell it worked, but it does now work. And I don't know when our next better ball competition is.
I've got no idea, but I might move it.
Okay, but no, I mean, it'll be fine, but I think probably need to send a note out to people in advance.
Yeah.
Because you know, you if you have a really good, I mean, the winners of the Phelan Plate, for example, sorry, the Phelan Plate,
the
tankards, will be odds on cut.
Yeah.
And it's a method really of just getting those people who wander around the country playing in better ball competitions, winning lots of drivers and so on, is cutting them, but it's not going to make any difference to the vast majority of players.
So I think we're lucky at the moment because I said we've only really introduced 4-ball competitions other than opens recently. I'm not sure we've got one coming up, but fortunately this issue will get resolved before we get there. So I just wanted to be transparent on that. Just a word of warning. I've just realised the timing. I've got a feeling we're all going to get cut off in 1 minute because the license for Zoom is only 1 hour, 10 minutes. So apologies if we get cut off mid-sentence, but actually we had finished. Are there any questions before we get cut off? Might get cut off, not entirely sure. Have been cut off.
No questions, but thanks very much anyway.
Sorry, if we've got time.
Yeah,
sorry, it's Richard.
You can try.
Can I just check the printing? If you're checking on the phone and do it all by phone, and I'm a phone nerd,
yeah,
is it difficult? How is it difficult to print label off? Then going using the touchscreen thing?
No. You simply, when I tried this myself, I logged in and then just went straight to the touch screen and put my name in, and where it comes up with the competition, it literally had the print label button there. So
perfect.
You can't really miss it. The problem on Saturday was that some people saying, well, the button wasn't there. But again, we think, and we're not 100% sure, but I know that you can't enter a scorecard for 2 hours after you've checked in, which obviously makes sense because you've got to play the round. We think it's kind of using that logic or that code, and therefore only gives you a 2 hour window. But I have got a ticket raised with them. But yeah, hopefully you should be okay with that. If not, just and with all of this, like we are kind of learning with you a bit here. So if you find that doesn't work, just feel free to email golfops, golfops@bristolandclifton.co.uk, and we'll investigate it for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Zoom has let us go to 11 minutes, so we might be able to keep going. Maybe we've got a different license now. I think what was it? I mean, I'll keep going until we stop, till we get cut off. I think what was interesting was on the competition on Saturday. Like I said, it ran much smoother because we didn't have all this +4, +2 stuff going on. What was really interesting though was that the scores were obviously seemed a lot higher, particularly given that the course was really long. Really, that's a good thing because you know, for people playing off the whites, I think a lot of people didn't understand that if they played around and scored 34 points, they'd actually play to their handicap. Most people think or thought historically that you had to get to 36 points to play to your handicap. But this is the issue of the difference between the course rating, which is 71.6, which is what they use to calculate your handicap, and par, which is 70, which is how you calculate Stableford. So, you know, in very basic terms, you know, most people playing off the whites on Saturday got 2 extra shots or 1 extra shot. They weren't extra shots as such. They were shots that they didn't get before the 1st of April, if that makes sense. It doesn't change. Somebody said to me, does that mean all our handicaps are wrong, or does that mean all the competitions have been unfair? It's like, no, absolutely not, because if everybody was playing off the whites, everybody was basically 1 or 2 shots less, you see. So it just means that you know, now if you score 36 points now, irrespective of what tee you play off, that means you have played to your handicap. Okay. And I do think this system is much simpler. A couple of others that often came up. Wi-Fi is my favorite topic. Obviously, when we were aware of these changes and the reliability, particularly on phones, the feedback we got was about the Wi-Fi. Club has made a pretty significant investment in the last month, 2 months. So a lot of that Wi-Fi infrastructure has been upgraded. You know, we've now got the members network, which I recommend to everybody to join. Forget the guest network and join the member network, because that one will only take the password once, and then you're kind of permanently logged onto it. You don't have to continually put in the password. The other thing is we've now put access points on quite a lot of outside buildings. So There's one looking at the patio area, there's one looking at the car park, there's one looking at the area by the changing rooms, and there's one pointing towards the 10th tee. So we've improved the Wi-Fi considerably. It's much more stable. It's got rid of this splash log on screen problem, and the coverage is much broader. It's not perfect because at the end of the day, it's a rural location. But it's a pretty solid setup we've got there now, and I think that will help for the people that are using the phones due to the lack of data signal up there. Kerry, anything else, or anybody, any other questions?
No, fine for me.
I'll stop again if I'm not challenged by Zoom. I'll stop the recording. Can't figure out how to stop. Okay, I won't stop the recording then. I was going to say I'll stop the recording, and then anybody can ask questions that they didn't want on the recording. Zoom behaved so well last time, but not happening today. No, I'll leave it. Okay, last call for any questions. If not, no. So thank you to everybody that joined, and certainly thanks for the questions. I said, if you do get any feedback, feel free to drop me a note. I think we're also repeating this session on Friday. This time it'll be in the clubhouse, and I've allowed a lot more time afterwards. So if anybody's having any problems connecting to the Wi-Fi or getting the app set up, or just want a walkthrough of the apps, we're going to run this session from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, but then from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, I'll be there if anybody wants any like one-to-one support on the technology. And again, if you've got any problems or questions or any feedback, just mail it through to the Golf Ops email address, and I'll get back to you on that. Okay, and just before we drop off, again, thanks to Kerry. Kerry, I think you're kind of known by everybody at the golf club, but
it's not
Kerry,
necessarily a good thing.
So, Kerry, as I said in the middle, Kerry is, a volunteer for Gloucester Golf, and I think we have had a much smoother rollout of this than many other clubs, and I think a lot of that was we got great support and guidance from Kerry. So thank you to Kerry. And as you can see on this call, that there's bits that I still don't fully get my head round, and he does. So we're very lucky in that respect. Okay, thank you to everybody, and I'll shut the call down.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
See you at the golf club.
Bye. Bye.